this guy's garage. Like and subscribe.
Clarification, Mr. Green?
Thank you. I just want to remind members that we do, in fact, have the Rouleau Commission report and a substantive extended version of the report in both official languages in keeping with the Official Languages Act as per the Commission's mandate. At this time, Madam Chair, I would like to move a motion that we proceed with the remaining meetings in camera to revisit and pick up where we left off at the draft reporting stage, setting aside an opportunity to revisit any outstanding information that may be presented that members of this committee may want to take from the primary evidence if they think that it has material impact on the recommendations that we've had to date. And I think that, not doing such is irresponsible with our time, with our mandate, and would risk us being pushed into the new year. So with that, I'm moving the motion formally and am open to discussion, but I don't think we're going to find consensus on this. And I think that this is a point where we do just have to get to a point where we get to a vote and use the remaining few weeks of our time judiciously to be able to advance the final conclusion of this committee. Thank you.
Okay, we have a motion that's been moved. Mr. Smith, you're next on Senator Smith, you're next on our list.
Just a couple of things that are stood out in my mind is.
A point of order, Madam Chair. Yep. And I don't mean to disrupt Senator Smith, and I apologize. The motion is on the floor.
Yeah.
I'd like to see a text of the motion. Mr. Green elaborated at great length. I don't know if all of that explanation is part of the motion, and it should be in both official languages, of course.
Point of order. On the point of order, Madam Chair.
Go ahead.
Motions come to committee at hand all the time, orally. It's part of our standing orders. The motion is to proceed in camera to go back to our draft reporting stage, keeping open the ability to revisit its finalization in the fall. That is the motion. It is a duly put motion procedurally that does not require it to be distributed in writing. It is also translated in real time as per the standing orders and translation of official committee business.
Point of order on the point of order on the point of order, Madam Chair. It has been customary with this committee to have motions in writing.
Thank you, Chair. I don't know which point of order on the point of order we're at, but I'm trying to understand here. I think that what Member Green is to try to get back to work on the report. I'm not prepared to work on drafting a report tonight, but we have to continue to improve and develop in depth the report. But I don't see why we should be going in camera tonight. There's a motion. We already have a motion for the production of documents. That process should occur in public, not in camera. I think perhaps we have to keep our chambers current as to what we're doing. Also, interim reports, perhaps, or. Well, they'll ask a question. They'll say, "Did you receive everything you needed?" It's a bit fast for that. Perhaps I didn't understand Member Green's question. I don't think that we need to go in camera right now.
I heard wrong, Mr. Green. I'd ask you to correct me, but I don't believe you said to go in camera tonight. Okay.
Just for the record, Madam Chair, the intention is a direction for the planning of future meetings. Report writing is done in camera. That is what is typical. That is what we were doing prior to the translation situation and motion. And so my suggestion is for the remaining time of these last few weeks, that gives us a week to revisit where we left off, to have the chairs report back to the committee where we left off, to go back to the report writing stage, keeping open, not finalizing, the ability for members who feel it important to revisit with the appropriate evidence as it is translated, to come back and have that addressed at the report writing stage. So I did not refer to us beginning the report writing stage now. This is for the future direction of the work. And I would just put to my colleagues that the other option again, is for us to simply suspend or, as Mr. Carrion stated, go in a completely different direction that would deal with the minutia of the documents at hand. I would leave it to every individual member of this committee to deal with the translated documents in whatever way they see fit. I myself am ready and prepared to go back to draft reporting and to begin a phase that allows us to wrap this up before the next calendar year.
Anyone else who wants to speak on the motion? Ms. Romanato, Senator Smith, were you speaking on the motion itself?
I think so.
I welcome your comments.
I just wanted to bring up a few thoughts. In cases, I've lived in a different world, of course, but we had a lot of report writing when we had disciplinary situations in sport and then bankruptcies and what we're going to do. Seems to be some key words: momentum, focus, and sense of urgency. Is there momentum? What type of focus do we have, and what type of sense of urgency do we have? What's the group interest, and what are we working as a group for all Canadians, or are we working for ourselves and strictly whether we're conservative? What side of the fence are we on? I think that you've got to recognize, and I'm sure everybody does, but once you get into the summertime, lights go out. You can be the best person in the world, but you're looking for your rest. So what can be done between now and when we break? And what type of momentum can we create that will give some gas into the fall period? And do we have enough support folks around can do some grunt work that's going to develop some form of continuity so that when we come back in the fall, we're not going to be just, oh my goodness, we've been off all summer, you know. So I put that on the floor as a rookie, but I've been in business for 45 years and I think I understand it. And I've been in leadership positions, but momentum, focus, sense of urgency, there needs to be some commonality around the room here. The game plan is not going to solve anything. And are we working for the interest of Canadians or our own self-interest?
Mr. Maloney? Yeah. Followed by Senator Harder.
I support Mr. Green's motion, and I couldn't agree more with Senator Smith.
Senator Harder.
I can be equally brief, and I thank Mr. Green for his motion. I think the only way to regain some momentum and some focus and some sense of urgency is to continue our work in camera on the report with the caveat that Mr. Green has introduced, and I would hope that we can call the question.
Mr. Green, I'm going to ask you to just repeat the motion.
That the committee return back into camera for the remaining weeks to continue the work on the draft report writing phase, not excluding the ability to revisit in the fall any new information as presented in the translated documents for our consideration and finalization of the report.
We're awaiting documents. During the month of May, I'm sure we're going to receive some. And there's a break week in May, I believe, as well. So if we resume the work, we will be receiving some documents in the interim, assuming that they will be provided as PCO has told us they would. I might be more compliant than that. Because you see, each party will have probably different points of view on even the material of the Royal Commission. And I'm quite sure that these are reliable documents coming from the Commission because they were heavily debated by and assisted with lawyers. And if we're going to have at least those documents and to further our study, this would allow us to identify in our draft report that we could add information, add evidence where there might be some weaknesses or gaps. At least if we give ourselves the month of May to receive those documents which we deem missing, and we could use what we have left in June to go in camera and debate.
You're suggesting, if I use as an example, the 28th of May, we would have almost all the documents because they're giving them as they get them. And next week, obviously.
So the week after.
So the week after we'd be on break, and then we come back from the break. You're suggesting we would start meeting and going through them. So it's a 1 week, essentially 1 week delay, I think. I'm sorry, I'm trying to figure.
Well, we're on the last day of April. We have a full week next week. Is it a break week or a work week? Well, the letter we received from PCO over the last few hours, between now and the 30th of May, they will be providing documents. If we get them next week, well, we can start sooner. But if we can get them if we can start studying them and analyzing them as we get them.
Colleagues, I don't think we need to review the documents that we receive in committee. And we certainly don't need to today decide what to do about that. I don't have a problem, Senator Carignan, if later in our work we have received sufficient documents that we want to, before the fall, reflect that in our considerations. But I just think we should get back to work and restore, as my Senate colleague suggests, some momentum, some focus, and some urgency to our work.
Sorry, Senator, or Mr.
Non, mais
Brock.
juste un point là.
No, just a comment here. I really don't like this notion that we're letting it pass as if we're not really doing the work because we don't have the documents yet. We receive the documents, we take a look at them, we study what we have to. It's not because we're not sitting in the committee that we are not working. You know, if a workman is short on nails, he's not doing nothing because he's waiting for his nails.
Monsieur Carignan, in my opinion, Madam Chair, has suggested a reasonable middle ground to this approach. So that being said, I'm prepared to move an amendment to Mr. Green's motion to read that this committee resume its review of the draft report commencing on Tuesday, May the 28th, 2024.
Okay. Any comments on the amendment? Mr. Maloney?
What does that mean we're doing on May the 21st?
Waiting for the documents to arrive.
So we're going to come sit here and wait for documents to arrive? Why don't
We're not sitting.
Okay. I just want to be clear. So what
Yeah.
it mean? We are sitting that week. It's the previous week we're not sitting. So it means we're not having a meeting the week we're sitting, which is the week of May the 20th.
With permission, I know I didn't have my hand up. The whole idea, when I'm listening to Senator Carignan, is that we expect another tranche of documents to be received by this committee over the next several days and several weeks. Presumably, most of that tranche will be delivered before the 28th of May. That gives us roughly 3 to 4 consecutive Tuesdays before we rise.
Okay. In that case, Madam Chair, I would not support the sub-amendment because Mr. Green's motion allows us the latitude of when we receive the next tranche or the tranche after that, which we will continue to do. Sure it does, because it leaves the option open of looking at those documents as they come along while we're doing the report. What Mr. Brock's sub-amendment does is delay starting that report, and it just means we lose more time because I anticipate that when we get here on May the 28th, we're going to have the same discussion we had tonight. So I will be voting against the sub-amendment.
I have to say that, I respect Mr. Maloney's comments. However, there is a significant portion of the report already started. We've been working on prior to you joining the committee. And, quite honestly, I appreciate the conversation around the table. I think there's a balance we have to strike. I respect my Francophone colleagues and their needs to have access to the information that they feel is important. And but I also agree that we need to move forward as expediently as possible, in line with Senator Harder and Mr. Green's comments of getting at the report and doing that in an expeditious manner. However, I've put myself in the position of my colleagues, Mr. Fortin and Senator Senator Carignan, and quite honestly, I'm troubled that we don't have more documents that were translated at commission, and that would we don't know what's for them to make that decision. If I was in their shoes, I would have the same position. I'd be concerned that I might miss something, and as Senator Smith said, we're here for the Canadian public, and that means that we're supposed to study the exercise of the authorities to invoke the act, and that's different than what the commission explored, and we should be doing that as expeditiously as possible, but also as thoroughly as possible. So I think the compromise that Mr. Brock brings forward is an opportunity to get more documents translated for our Francophone colleagues. It allows for an opportunity for us all to explore those documents, and they may be of value and they may not be of value. We don't know for sure yet. But I can tell you that my goal was still to have this report done by the end of June. That does not appear to be possible, but for sure by early fall is reasonable, and in fairness to both official languages, I think we need to have some sort of compromise, and those are my thoughts at this time.
Others? Any other comments? The question I would like just to ask of all members on this, is there anything around the documents that could be done in the intervening weeks? I go to what Mr. Fortin's comments were around sorting documents and stuff. Is there anything that we could accomplish with respect to the documents in those 2 weeks that that we have time allotted, but nothing on our agenda? So it's a question I ask, and I'd like to suspend just for 5 minutes. We're back. Apologize for the delay, Mr. Brock, I understand, and then I need to go to Mr. Fortin. Mr. Brock?
Thank you, Chair. I'm seeking unanimous consent to alter the commencement date of my amendment from the 28th of May to now read the 21st of May, the Tuesday following our break week.
Mr. Fortin, do you want to speak to that amendment?
Just another compromise here, but I don't think that we're going to make the deadline. I don't know that we'll have access to the documents that we need in French to the extent that they are available through my Anglophone colleagues.
First, I think we have agreement around the table. I'm just watching the screen to make it the 21st.
Can I just ask a question? What is it we're going to, based on Mr. Brock's proposal, what is it going to happen then on the 21st? Are we dealing with the report?
Yes.
We're dealing with the report.
Okay, so how does that change anything other than the date? And in camera.
And the documentation that we need.
It's a compromise to starting next week,
Okay.
knowing full well that the likelihood of us satisfying our Francophone colleagues with another tranche is probably not going to happen in less than 7 days. We have the break week following that, so that's the compromise from the 28th to the 21st.
And I think Senator Carignan had also indicated if there's issues or pieces of...
Well, the first point on the agenda, I think, those who would like to identify the index, 900 pages of index, which we should have in a bilingual format and an organized format. There's a lot of documents that are only in French as well in that index. So we identify those documents that need to be translated in the second language, English or French. And so then we can update and amend the draft that we have already begun to draft, without prejudice, and always reserving the right to make sure that we have all the documentation that we need.
The opportunity that would be an ongoing process, because you can identify at any point and we can start putting the list together. So I'm looking around. I think Mr. Fortin agreed. Do we need to take a vote, or are we agreed on the 21st?
So just to clarify, we're adopting Mr. Green's motion and we're starting on the 21st.
That's correct.
That's what we're doing. That's where we landed. Okay.
It's the amended version. Okay. All right. I see everybody's giving me thumbs up on the screen. Okay. I wanted to also get agreement from you, if I may, because I've had discussions with the analysts, to take the opportunity to update the report to take into consideration the federal court decision and the government response to it. That'll be something we can review, but at least they can start bringing that update, since it's been some time since the body of the report has been updated. Does everybody agree with that? And that would also give us something more to look at and to comment on, which is irrelevant from the materials that we're looking, will be waiting to come in. Senator Carignan?
Oui, troisième point, est-ce que...
Third item, perhaps we could check with the analysts that we have a draft that could be actually tabled to the House and to the Senate on the progress made in our work before we rise for the summer. But that's a question to be shared with Mr. Fortin.
So, comments around an interim report? Senator Harder.
I would oppose an interim report. I think we just get it done.
Other comments? Do we, Mr. Fortin? Oh, I apologize. Mr. Green was first. Mr. Green?
I would just say that in our deliberations, I think contemplating a brief report back is more of an administrative function than it is a big debate. It would just be a statement of facts, an explainer, if you will, why we weren't able to report back as a co-chair. I feel a bit of a responsibility, so I do support Mr. Fortin's and Mr. Carignan's suggestion. I would just hope that it's not something that would require, a whole bunch of debate, but would perhaps be best drafted by the co-chairs, signed off, and then presented back to our committee while we're doing the draft reporting, perhaps on the 21st, but if not, on the first section after that. So I would be fine to support that. It would just be a very brief statement of fact about where we're at.
I agree with what Member Green has said for the 21st. Not a lot of big report, just a factual report. As we say, currently 25 words or less, but let's say 5 pages or so, that's it. Just the facts.
I agree with Senator Harder. We don't need to do an interim report. If we're talking about something that's 5 pages long, I anticipate will take us 2 meetings to agree on the language of that thing, which eats into what we're trying to accomplish here. So what I would suggest is we defer this notion of an interim report until sometime in June after we've started the report process and see if it merits doing and what it might look like then. And we don't need to talk about it any further tonight.
So we will ask the analysts then to start doing the amendment of the report in terms of adding the new information. And if I'm clear, we will reconvene on the 21st of May. And we'll have further discussions both on the interpretation issues as well as the draft report. And the next meeting will be in camera.
Can we ensure that you're suggesting that the entire meeting will be in camera? Perhaps I would suggest that when we're working on the report itself, we be in camera. But if we're trying to identify which documentary elements that we want to include and need translation, I don't think that that is part of the drafting process, so we need not be in camera.
Next meeting on the 21st when we know what it is we're discussing?
We could decide
we
in
could-
public.
I wasn't talking about 4 or 5 pages. 4 or 5 lines would do me well. But I proposed that, and Senator Carignan was in agreement, and Mr. Mulroney and Harder were not. Are we going to go for a brief interim report or not? I'll leave the content up to the analysts. It's going to be only a statement of fact. The 21st of May, we adopt that interim report, and then we get to work. It's just a formality, I think. The discussion of which documents, that should be public. That's part of the education of the public, if you will.
Mr. Green?
Thank you. I just want to remind members procedurally there's a motion on the floor. The motion was fairly specific. The report was not presented. The report option was not presented as an amendment. While I'm in support of it, I don't want to conflate the two motions. We do have a motion, I don't believe has passed, but was duly put on the floor. Is that correct?
No, it was never put on.
No, the motion that I presented, had that passed?
Yes.
Okay, sorry, I'm removed from the room, so I missed that part. So now, is there a motion on the floor for the report? Or had it been just a suggestion procedurally?
That's the question I was going to ask. Mr. Fortin, are you making a motion to do an interim report?
S'il vous plaît, oui, je.
Yes, please. I do so move that motion. Yes.
On the floor to do an interim report. Is there any parameters you'd like to put to that? Do we have any other comments on the motion with the interim report?
So for the motion of Mr. Fortin to prepare an interim report, the Honorable Gwen Boniface?
No.
L'Honorable Claude Carignan, CP?
Oui.
The Honorable Peter Harder, PC?
No.
The Honorable Larry Smith?
Oui.
Mr. Nakvi? Mr. Nakvi?
No. He said no.
His thumb is up. It's a yes.
Sorry, I can't hear you.
He's like this.
Mr. Nakvi, can you hear me?
I can hear you. Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can.
I vote no.
No, thank you. Mr. Maloney?
No.
Ms. Romanado?
No.
Mr. Brock?
Oui.
Mr. Montz?
Sure, why not?
Monsieur Fortin?
Oui.
And Mr. Green?
Yes.
So
6 yeas, 5.
6 yeas, 5 nays, no.
The yeas have it. The motion passes. Okay. Any other matters? Motion to adjourn? All in favor?